Guys, let's be honest, you and I don't like the electric cars that Mercedes have done so far. In fact, with the EQ series, it's been pretty much borderline hatred. But what we do love is the compact series of Mercedes-Benz cars. The A-Class and family have been such a huge hit, and they still are today. For a lot of us, it's the only Mercedes that we could ever really aspire to, and for others, it was the first car that then led into others in the brand, even myself. And that, of course, was also true of its sibling, the CLA, which is, in my opinion, probably the best looking four-door in the compact segment. And now we have an all-new CLA, one that is bringing a completely different approach to all new Mercedes-Benz. Now, the other great thing is, unlike Mercedes' approach with the EQ cars, where they had blinders on, just doing electric by 2030, now the mission has changed. This CLA brings in a whole new platform that is now a two-prong approach, giving you a choice of either a really advanced mild hybrid combustion car that we're all super pleased about, or what I'm calling a super EV setup, which is a whole new EV setup with a crazy amount of miles. No longer are they going to aim for just EV by 2030. Instead, they will give customers what they want for as long as they want it. So I'm very excited to drive the car in beautiful Copenhagen today. And before I do that, what we're going to do is break down what this new MMA platform is all about. Then I've got a new body style to show you in the shooting brake, and I want to address the rumour mill as to what is the fate of our beloved A-Class and what can we expect in terms of the AMG version that's coming. So guys, join me as we do a really important review today of the brand new CLA. So today's episode of RBR is once again sponsored by NordVPN. Now, a lot of phones and devices have inbuilt VPNs now, but the control that Nord has always given us, like choosing your region, which for me has been brilliant because when I've been abroad and I want to access my UK Crunchyroll or Netflix library or watch history, then it's easy to do. And it gives me peace of mind when using public Wi-Fi's, protecting my data, my cards, etc., etc. So it's great as a VPN. But one product these guys have done recently that has been game-changing for things other than VPN is this thing called threat protection. Now, this is something you can turn on without turning on the VPN. And what Nord essentially wanted to do was make your internet browsing experience like it used to be back in the good old days when you didn't have these horrible websites with malicious ads you can't get rid of, and these websites that would track you and make a profile about you. Tell me if this hasn't happened to you. Like, I was searching for coffee machines, and for the next 20 days, all you see everywhere is coffee machine ads. And it's really annoying. Threat protection puts an end to all of that. It puts an end to the profiling. It gets rid of the malicious malware on these websites. Heck, it will even scan files you download for you to make sure they are safe for extra peace of mind. It's also really easy to turn on. Let me show you how to do it. It's within the NordVPN app itself. All you do, you go into the app. You don't need to turn on the VPN if you don't want to. You hit this shield button here, and then you've got threat protection, knock it on, and that is it. It can be turned on independently of your VPN. So there you go, so easy. And then you've got a much more peaceful internet browsing experience. And if you turn on the VPN, even better, because you've got that much more protection. Now, of course, as an RBR viewer, I've got you a great deal. Use the link below and go to NordVPN/RBR. And on a 2-year plan, you'll get 4 months extra free. And for peace of mind, you got Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee as well. So well worth trying it. So that's NordVPN.com/RBR. And you'll just have a more peaceful browsing experience. Guys, a huge thanks to you guys for always supporting our amazing regular sponsors. Now, let's get back to the car. Okay guys, so this is the car that we are reviewing today. And it is this lovely CLA 250 Plus in Sapphire, which actually looks really, really nice. It's a brand new paint shade, especially for the CLA. And this is the EV version. The combustion version, as I said, will be ready at the end of the year. Don't switch off quite yet when you hear the word EV, because actually I'm really excited to drive this one. What we've been sorely lacking as Mercedes customers has been a really good entry-level EV. I mean, the one we've had till date, which has been the EQA, what an awful car. It's ugly, slow, fat, with old technology. It's ugly. Yes, I said ugly twice, because it is. I mean, you even look at the very expensive EQE. That, to me, is not a Mercedes, right? Luckily, it looks like the CLA has come to do a little bit of healing in that regard. It's ditching a lot of that EQ design that we don't like. Yes, it's keeping some of it, and we'll talk about that. And then it's ditching all of that technology for all new technology that is actually going to have really usable range, and an all new interior system with a new super screen and an AI that is powered by all the world's top AIs under one umbrella. This is a clear message that this is the new direction for all new Mercedes-Benz going forward. So let's talk about this platform that allows for both EV and combustion, and then loads of different body styles to come in the future as well. It's called the Mercedes Modular Architecture, and let's start with the combustion one. It's actually a really clever new system in the combustion hybrid. We've got an all new engine. That's the M252 engine. It's a 1.5 litre 4-pot. That's actually tiny, and it's been designed in a way that everything is packaged. For example, the cylinder's really close together, the exhaust manifold is built in, and it's so small it can fit within basically the tiny frunk of even our EV CLA here. That engine then pairs to an electric motor that sits within our new eDCT 8-speed gearbox. That is good for 20 kilowatt or around about 27 horsepower, and then that is linked to a 1.3 kilowatt battery that charges itself actually up to 25 kilowatt in recuperation, which is bloody good. So it means you don't ever need to, well, you can't plug in, but you won't ever need to. Now, the other benefit of all of this is you'll be able to do things like electric coasting up to 100 kilometers an hour and small maneuvers and moving in traffic, etc., thanks to the fact that it is an advanced mild hybrid. So a really impressive combustion car. We'll have a different number of power levels in this, reaching up to 188 horsepower. Apparently, we don't have further details because it's not been approved yet in terms of type approval, but that will be 188 plus the 27 that you get from the electric motor. Design-wise, you can only tell it apart from the fact that it has a more traditional grille rather than the light panel. So you'll see the protruding stars in there, much more like our Mercedes grills from the past, which I quite like actually. And the other benefit is probably going to be a couple of 100 kg lighter vis-a-vis the fact that it hasn't got the heavy battery, etc. So that's going to be, I think, a really good shout, and I can't wait to drive that car personally. Plus, it's probably going to be a damn sight cheaper than the EVs. Now let's talk about the EV. It's a fresh start, as we said, so nothing from the past, and it's their first ever 800 volt architecture car. What does that mean? It means ultra performance, ultra efficiency, and super quick charging. For example, you can charge 200 miles in 10 minutes, which is insane if you're on one of the high-speed chargers. And they tested this by doing over 3,700 kilometers at the Nardo circuit over 24 hours just via that quick charging setup, which is damn impressive. Then we've got all new batteries. The first one is an 85.5 kilowatt NMC battery, which is the latest one. You'll see like Porsche using it in the Taycan and Audi using it in their cars, so really advanced. And this one gives us up to 492 miles on a full charge, which is massive. That's much more efficient and has an all new cell chemistry. All of this learning coming in from the ultra mileage EQXX car. And there'll be a smaller LFP battery of 58 kilowatts coming later on, which I suspect will be a version underneath this, like a CLA 200 or 180, to sit under the 250. But for now, the NMC is the large battery with the big range. Then we have the motors, and the main one is our motor on the rear, which is a permanently synchronous electric motor, good for over 270 horsepower by itself. And this has a next generation silicon carbide inverter built in there and a 2-speed gearbox. Gear 1 is obviously for high performance and acceleration, and gear 2 for long distance and higher speeds. And if you have a 4MATIC car, you will then have an additional motor on the front of around about 108 horsepower, and then this can be disconnected when it's not needed via the DCU disconnection. So again, ultra efficient. They've also developed a new one-box braking system, which even in hard braking will just use the recuperation. And even when it comes to something like ABS, will be able to use that recuperating element, which is pretty amazing. And we'll see how that feels when we go on the road. And then finally, we have a new multi-link rear suspension, much like, you know, more senior Mercedes-Benz, though it is a steel suspension. So we'll have to see what that's like on the road when we go for a drive in a minute. I hope it's good, because the compact series has always been a little bit crashy when it comes to suspension. So as you can see, everything is new, and we have 2 power levels to begin with. First, our 250 plus, which is our car today, 268 horsepower, and it's rear wheel driven, so a little bit lighter, and it has the most range. Then we have the 350, which is your dual motor setup 4MATIC car. This is 349 horsepower, obviously more powerful and a little bit less in mileage, and then we can expect versions underneath this, as we said, in the future. Now, both of these cars are quite heavy, okay? 1950-ish for the 250 and over 2 tons for our 350. Now, that's basically weighing the same as an RS6 or an S-Class. Now, I get it, these are EVs, and that's a bit of an unfair comparison to make. But what happened to all the learning that they were telling us about in the EQXX concept, like the spider web AI designed parts and use of this material and carbon fiber, etc., etc.? I thought that's what we were going to translate into these newer cars, but it doesn't really seem to be happening. Now, let's talk about pricing. In the UK, we start off with our Sport Edition, and it's in the 250. You can only get the 250 in the UK, and that starts at around about £45,000, which is quite steep still for an entry level, though bear in mind we still have space for the hybrid. And then our top level is the AMG line Premium, which is at 51k. Do you think that's worth it? Let me know what you think in the comments. Now design, let's talk about design. I've had months to think about this, right? I've looked at it again and again and again. First of all, I said that it gets rid of a lot of the EQ design back when I first spoke about this car, but then it hasn't that much because it's still kind of fat in the middle. It's got that EV bloat that I keep talking about in EVs. They've tried to hide it with the black trims on the side, but it's still kind of there. It's almost like you've blown air into the middle of the car. And you compare it to the normal CLA, and you do see that element. You do see the kind of the fatness in the middle. Then you have the front end where the light bar just hasn't grown on me yet. Like, I don't know. And I know it hasn't grown on you guys. I'm just not quite sold on this design thing, but I have this bad feeling it's going to come across every single Mercedes Benz. And then even when I look at the rear, I'm not sure about that light bar. The light bar is actually still quite EQ, isn't it, in its kind of execution. So, jury's a little bit out. I think the wheels still look small as well. It needs some larger wheels because of, again, that bulk in the middle. Yes, it's better than EQ, but I still think Mercedes can do better than this, and they should. Now, in terms of design, there's a new version as well, which is the shooting brake, inevitably. Let's go and take a look at it. Now, you guys know I love a good wagon or an estate, but a shooting brake takes that idea further with just a sexier body shape, basically giving you the best of both worlds. And the CLA did it so well in the past, so they had to bring it back now. The design, as you expect, is shooting brake added to the normal CLA. So you got that lovely, CLS, CLA style roofline into the wagon shape, which is great. The good thing is you get more space, not only in the rear, which is very obvious, you get more space in the front as the driver as well. And that's compared to the predecessor. But if we head back and look at the side for a second, the shooting brake looks quite big from the side, doesn't it? It's almost bordering on the side of kind of SUV. A lot of that, like we said, is the technology. It's because you have the battery underneath there, but you still want to maintain a lot of space on the inside, almost like you've taken a normal CLA shooting brake and, like I said, blown some air into it. And this is, I think, an offshoot then of the technology being used here. It still looks good, but to my eyes, looking from that direction, it doesn't look quite as shrunk as the previous one. And we know it isn't because the roof is higher. Now, of course, stating the obvious, the boot's got more space, right? 50 litres more. But the practical benefit of this to the family, the person with dogs, the person who needs to take a lot with them in a car like this is huge. You've got a nice big opening, you've got a nice flat area to load, you can split fold for well over 1,000 more. Now, inside the shooting brake, there's a couple of surprises. One is quite theatrical, and I'll show you straight away. It's this beautiful panoramic roof where it melds a couple of technologies we've seen in quite a few other manufacturers, but into one awesome panel. The first thing you notice, obviously, is the star pattern, which is lighted to match your ambient lighting. So you can actually go into here, choose any of the ambient lighting colors, and you guys can see it from where you're standing as well, and it'll change the star pattern up there as well. How cool is that? And like you've seen in other now high-end panoramic roofs, you can also go into here and you can change the opacity by clicking clear, completely opaque, or then to have the split motif at the top as well. And the cool thing is that is exclusive to your shooting brake. Now, the next thing, a lot of you are going to be as ecstatic as I am when I saw it and I screamed for joy, and some of you are going to think I'm a complete weirdo. And that surprise is these babies. Look at that. Mercedes fans know what I'm talking about. Gone are those haptic buttons for your setting of the Distronic and your volume. Now you've got beautiful tactile buttons back, just like in the previous generation of steering wheels. And it's so great to have that back. It's such a win for us, and that's going to roll out across Mercedes models now. I absolutely love them, and I'm so happy to have them back. So guys, that's your shooting brake. Now we're going to get more variants. There will be an SUV, both in 5-seater and probably in 7-seater, as we've had. And then of course, the AMG is coming. Now, what do we know about the AMG? We know that it's over 400 kilowatts, thanks to Ola Kullinais telling us about that in that famous press conference. It's going to have a more aggressive design, of course, on the front with the wheels. We can see some kind of active aero going on in the rear. Will it have active, like, engine sounds, like has been rumored in the AMG GTX? I don't know, but I'm quite excited to see where they go with it. I think, like our standard car here, they should go with a two-prong approach, AMG, having the EV and having a combustion AMG. I don't think they will, and I think that'll be a bit of a misstep for them. Now, the final thing I wanted to address with you is the rumour mill around the A-Class. Apparently the A-Class has been cancelled completely, which wows me because it is their best-selling car. But I've heard some whispers and rumours that they are maybe now considering a third facelift of the current one. I've only heard that from a few areas, the dark corners of the web, but that would make a lot of sense to me if they were to do that, because how can you ditch your bestseller? I just can't see them doing that. So let's see what happens in the future. Now guys, let's head in. I want to show you this interior because so much has changed, and I think it's going to point to a lot of where Mercedes are going, and a lot of it is really good. Now guys, the interior of the CLA is very important for us Mercedes customers because it's giving us a look at what you can expect to find in all the other future Mercedes cars as well, particularly with regards to the OS, if not the structure, and things like buttons, touch points, materials, and stuff like the gear lever stalk, which has changed quite dramatically. So in the CLA, you can see they have a whole new super screen, which acts as pretty much 60% of your forward-facing interaction with this car. Now, whether you like being faced by massive screens or not is a separate point, but I think it's a better way of doing this than when they had the hyperscreen in the EQ cars, which were tilted backwards and never looked very appealing to me. This being straight, flat, you've got your own driver zone here, then the larger screens on this side, which are both the same size. This works a lot better in my opinion. Now I want to show you all of the new touch points and particularly the MB.OS system from my point of view, because I think you're going to see this rolled out now across all of your future Mercedes cars. So guys, here's the view from the driver's side, and you can see that the super screen dominates a lot of your view. But then the materials around you, like I said, quite nice. You've got nice soft touch points. You've got the artificial leather. You can see the ambient lighting seeping through there, and in various areas like in our vents as well. All of that is nice, and it gets better as things get darker. And you get it in the main areas like you can see across our center console here. The vents in the middle are actually quite nice as well. So there's not a lot of plastic at this mid or eye level. So you've got nice, like a leather here with the red stitch. You've got your storage compartment here as well. The only part where you see that plasticky type look, which is still leather trimmed, if you like, is in the middle center console and around this lower part, which is pretty normal in the compact class. And the seats are trimmed really nicely. There's a different mix of materials with like textiles. You've got the microfiber Dynamica, you've got the soft leather, you've got piping. It's done very, very well. And generally, like I said, that material finish, the stitching, everything feels quite nice and premium. Now, before I get to MB.OS and the digital interaction, let's talk about the touchy-feely bits. So we've got some new things in this car. For example, our gear stalk back here has changed. Now, there's no starter button in the car. So to start the car, you've got to push this button here, or turn the car off, as it were. I don't know how I feel about that. I do like having a starter button. And to actually get going, you either press down for drive or up for reverse. All of that works as before. And now this actually controls your recuperation levels. And I'll show you that as we go on a drive. Our stalk on this side, pretty much the same with indicators, wipers, etc. So that is unchanged. Then we've got new buttons everywhere. So our window buttons are all new. You can see they're still in a nice metallic finish here. You've got the mirror controls here. Our seat control buttons are also different, as are the door handles. So those touch areas have been updated in the CLA. And then the only other buttons you'll find are underneath our vents here, where you've got dynamic select, your parking, turning off the screen. That one there is your AI assistant button, and then you've got the volume controls as well. Just underneath your buttons here, then you've got a wireless charging tray here, which is great, and it's perforated, so you've got some cooling element in there as well. Just behind that, you've got your cup holders, and they have the ability, if you need them, to bring out. See, this is good quality stuff that they've added into here. I'm glad they've upped the quality in this. And because this is an EV, no central tunnel, so you've got an extra bit of storage in here with some USB-Cs. But then your main interaction is with this whole area, which I think is better than the hyper screen. You've got 3 separate screens here. These 2 are the same size, so that's your passenger screen. This is your home screen, or your zero layer, and it's split up into various different things. So first of all, Maps acts as your main basis. The maps have been updated, and they use Google Maps for all the data, all the reviews, etc. Why am I talking about reviews? Because when you use the AI system up here, it can scroll through the data that Google has and provide you that data. But yeah, now everything is Google Maps based on the maps, and this is your zero layer. You've got your climate always at the bottom here, including your seat controls. Heck, you've even got massaging in a CLA. How crazy is that? How far have things come along that we have massaging seats in a CLA? But yeah, your climate control is down here as well. That's always in the zero layer. And down here, these are your frequently used apps. So the last ones that you've used will always appear here, kind of like in something like the iPad, where your last few apps that you use appear in the dock at the bottom. It's the same concept. So recently I've been using things like the ambient lighting, for example. So that is there at the moment, and I can switch that, and you can see the color changing over there on the vents. And that's taken me a bit of time actually to go through the system and kind of find where the old stuff were. What I found most useful is this button here always brings you either to home or to the apps, and that is the most important thing, because you'll find all of your main apps through here. Going into settings, and it's very different. It's all gone kind of Apple and iPhone, where you have all your settings on this side, and then when you click into them, the rest of the information comes on this side here. So it's going to take a bit of getting used to when we've been used to the MBUX side of things. It's probably a bit more logical, but I still haven't got my head around where everything is, and it's been a bit of a pain to try and find it all. One cool thing here, I will tease you before we go out for a drive, there are numerous sound experiences in this car that we are going to experience when we drive, and they are actually quite cool, so wait for that. So yes, that is your zero layer. You head into here to get your apps. Of course you have CarPlay, etc. You've got loads of other applications, gallery, camera, which obviously uses the camera over there. Hello. And you've even got games, and I'll show you the games in a minute when we check out the passenger screen on that side. They've also done some nice gestures in here to like get out of things, so you can actually swipe this way instead of having to, you know, aim for the home button every time. Say when you're driving or whatever, it's easier to kind of swipe. So I like things like that. That's well done. I think they've done a pretty good job with this. Is it a bit too big? I think so. I'll talk to you about that while driving, because it does get blotted out a little bit. One disappointment for me actually is the driver zone, where Mercedes has been so good at giving us loads of different screens. Now we only have this screen in this. Maybe it's because the OS is new and they haven't had a chance to do other designs, but you either have this or you have their virtual display, which then scans the environment and then insert cars, pedestrians, buildings, etc. It's quite clever, and it uses the Unity game engine to do that. If you don't want that and you just want maps, then you can head straight into maps. But those are the only views that you get. It's really well animated, and again, I'll show you that when we drive, but it's just such a shame that all we have now is the options in the middle and no other customization. One weird thing I found in here, look at that, it says AMG line. God, I hope they don't start putting that on the exterior with some silly badges or something, but oh dear. Now one thing I've not gotten along with here, let's turn the car on. Dynamic select is your button here for your mode selection. And the problem is, let's say, well, I'm in sport at the moment and I want to go into comfort. I press it, and instead of just going into dynamic select, it goes to the next mode automatically, which is just annoying. So like I pressed it again and it's gone into individual. To my mind, it should go into the menu and then you choose which one you want. Instead, it just automatically shuffles through. And the fact that that's a tiny little mode select thing just hidden over there, I don't like using that while driving, and I've said that for a while with Mercedes. And the logic of this dynamic select doesn't make any sense to me. The driving modes I do like, however, comfort, which is self-explanatory, sport, full power, eco, obvious as well, and then individual, you can massage a few settings here and there on drive, steering, and ESP. Then we have our passenger screen in front of us here, which is the same size as your main display over here. And for the first time, I find it a passenger screen that's actually quite useful because it is directly in front of you. It's the same size as the one here, so you're not inclined to use that. And then the stuff you can do on here. So let's be honest, all of us can see ourselves sitting here and playing Angry Birds on a screen like this, rather than, oh, I'm going to change the driving modes or do some other nonsense for the system over there. That's not interesting. This is much cooler. Look, there we go. All right, pressure's on. These pigs, they don't know what's going to hit them. Boom! Take that, haram pig. Yes. But yeah, I can see us actually using this, and passengers actually using this, because it's actually got some useful apps in there. We've got music. There's going to be, there's a browser in there. Undoubtedly, you can play video. You've got Disney Plus, YouTube, etc. I mean, what else are people sitting here in the passenger seat going to do? They're going to watch things like this idiot presenting a car. So all of that makes sense to me, and I like the fact that the passenger screen for the first time is actually useful in a car, and I'm happy to say, yes, if you can get it, do get it. Space in the rear is significant, got good leg room, massive amount of headroom compared to the previous version. I think a lot of that is attributable to the big panoramic roof. It's stitched just as nice, you've got some USB-Cs, all the usual stuff, and in fact they've even put ambient lighting in the door card, which I'm quite impressed with, because they could have cheaped out on that, and they haven't. It doesn't feel like they've cheaped out in any part of the interior here. Your boot is fairly spacious. We've got around about 400 litres in here, which is pretty decent. The aperture isn't massive as you would expect on a four-door coupe, however. Now the other thing we need to talk about is this little icon in the top right corner here. This is meant to be Mercedes' intelligent assistant. So this is meant to use Bing for search, it uses ChatGPT 4.0 for questions and knowledge, and then Google Gemini as well in the maps, etc., but all under the umbrella of the Mercedes assistant. Now, it was also meant to show things like emotion, and they showed me back when we did the initial studio that this would change color to be like red if you were angry, or do other clever things like that. I've not been able to replicate any of that, okay? In fact, I found it to be a little dumber than the original MBUX assistant, because it just doesn't seem to do things as smoothly. For example, let's try this now. Hey Mercedes.
How can I help?
Reduce the ambient lighting brightness.
I can't operate the ambient light at the moment.
Why? Like, what is the issue here? There's nothing wrong with the ambient lighting. I can go in here and do it. There we go. I did it myself. Why can't the Mercedes assistant do it? I have no idea. Hey Mercedes, are there any Italian restaurants nearby?
I'm not sure what specific feature or function you're referring to. Could you clarify or provide more details? Please make sure to refer to the owner's manual for confirmed information.
I'm looking for an Italian restaurant.
I discovered an Italian restaurant called Scarpetta. It's only 100 meters away and has a rating of 4.2.
What do customers say about Scarpetta?
Customers say that Scarpetta has a lovely and romantic atmosphere with delicious pasta and good quality food. Would you like to check it out yourself?
Okay, so it took a few goes and then it managed to wake up. I still think it talks in a really, really awkward way, and it never seems to understand things on the first go. And the old MBUX assistant, I feel, did. This might be able to do more stuff and is more clever, but at the moment it seems really early days for it, and I'm not convinced at all. A lot of work needs to go into that. Obviously this car still has the old buttons here in the steering wheel, and I'm very sad to see the paddles go and be replaced with stuff there, because I really lauded them for doing that in EVs, but it is what it is. I think overall the digital experience and the way they've upgraded the interior is really good. So guys, that's your interior. I think it's good. I think the digital experience is good. I think the quality has been upped. Now we have to drive it. Let's see what it's like on the road, because we really need a good entry-level Mercedes-Benz. But the other thing the market is sorely lacking is a good entry-level EV, which this could be. So let's head out and let's see what the CLA is like on the road. Right guys, so as we set off, we will be using the new stalk. Push back and you get a startup sound. Turn it off and you get a turning off sound as well. So that's good that they've popped that in there. And of course, that will differ depending on which sound system you are in. So I've just chosen Roaring Pulse, and you get a different starting up sound, and then this continuous hum in the background, and a different ending sound as well. Right guys, first 100 yards. That sounds cool, doesn't it? That's one of our sound profiles, Silver Waves. It doesn't feel quite as EV as I was expecting. There's something about the steering, the suspension, It's more the power delivery, I think, that's actually really quite surprised me. It hasn't got that immediately boosty, throw you into the distance delivery. It's more like this measured response, which I really like. It reminds me of a good combustion engine. The sound profile sounds like a nice, powerful, like 6-cylinder engine. And I like the steering. It gets heavier as we're driving faster. And really, this is just in comfort mode, to be honest. Let's head into sport mode. I'm loving the graphics here in our driver zone. Mercedes have done so well with this. And remember, this is just our entry-level car, and really clean power delivery. I can feel a little bit when the gear changes, which is not uncommon actually. We felt it in Taycan as well. This is a very, very, very different EV to the EQ cars. Seriously, this is a really great first impression. Let's talk a bit about the sound profiles. We're in one here which historically has been my favorite, called Silver Waves, which sounds very much like a traditional 6-cylinder combustion engine. As I said, to me, that's what it sounds like. We can switch this now into Roaring Pulse, which is used for a lot of AMG type cars in the past. Ooh, deeper. Oh gosh, that's quite a deep rumbly sound, almost sounds like an evil spaceship. It's interesting though, because when I brake I get a different sound. When I push the accelerator hard I get a different sound. It's really well done. It really reacts to what you're doing. I think that's probably a little too aggressive and loud for a car that doesn't have quite the oomph that you would expect of that type of sound. Then we've come into Serene Breeze. Oh gosh, it's like violins or something. It's like we've just arrived to meet the elves of Rivendell or something. Right, now we're moving into Fractal Fusion. Where do they get these names? Oh gosh. That's very kind of digital. It's interesting. Is it a bit Blade Runner-ish? Not bad. And then finally, Granular Fuzz. Oh gosh. The entry sound to any villain in a sci-fi movie. See what I mean? Yeah, it's strange. It almost becomes kind of helicopterish. Obviously you can turn it off as well, but I like Silver Waves. Sounds like a Mercedes to me. It's a really good sound. Roaring Pulse, decent as well, but would suit, I think, maybe the 350, a faster car, a little bit more. So the sound profiles are great, and it's something I talk a lot about in EVs, that the reason that we don't quite gel with them is we need that feedback. So it's really great that Mercedes have doubled down on that in the CLA, and this is something that they can build upon because the system is there and you can just download new ones in the future. Right, now let's get on to speed. And Mercedes calls this a sprinter and a marathon, so it kind of needs to do the first thing. And it does, because it's an EV, of course, and it's kind of stating the obvious here. What's nice is that this still feels really quick, and that's the benefit of an EV. You don't have this sudden massive difference between this and the 350. Undoubtedly the 350 is going to be that much quicker because it's more like a big 6-cylinder engine car in terms of the power that you're getting out of it. But it's not like in combustion cars where you come down a level and you're buying the entry-level one and suddenly you've got a sluggish low-end response, like a smaller engine and a worse gearbox. All you lose out by going to the 250 rather than the 350 is purely just speed. I love the response of the electric motors in this car. It really is very, very convincing. Anyway, but when you go up to the 350, obviously much more powerful, much quicker. That kind of, the naming gives away that it kind of feels like a big 6-cylinder car as well, you know, the CLA 350. And that's how much horsepower it has. Do you need that? I'm not really convinced, because I think for a luxury car, I've always said this, with an EV, range is more important, and this one has a bit more range, it's a bit cheaper, it's the right level for a compact EV to sit at. But yes, in terms of power, I think more than adequate for daily duties. And what's interesting to me, it really reminds me of something like Taycan, and that's not surprising given how similar the technology on offer actually is with regard to the motors and the batteries, etc. Then we come to the handling aspect, which I actually found really quite surprising, with the heavier steering, as I said in my first impression, which feels good. The body roll, you know, it's rigid enough when you're pushing on a little bit. Now obviously it's a heavy car, but what's impressive is this new braking system that they've developed, the one-box braking system. You know, it doesn't feel like, I know it's recuperating, but it feels just like hard braking. And that's really quite impressive, and it brings the car to a halt when you need it, and then you have that immediate boost of power. You get into quite a flow where you start to have quite a bit of fun driving this car faster, which is great again for an entry-level car. Now, MB also said that this is a marathon runner, and we've seen that with the range figures, and I think the proof of the pudding is just how much pure range we're getting, which is really, really good in the EV space. Now, one thing I really do miss is having the paddles to control the recuperation. Instead, they've put that into this stalk as well, as I said. Now, it still works in a similar way, so if I pull the paddle, it'll go into like the one pedal driving, and look, the car is braking. Then I push it forward, and it will resume into normal drive mode. One more push forward, and you get coasting, which is cool, and then you can obviously push forward further to go into auto mode. But yeah, I've left it in D because that's given a really nice, I think that's partly that really nice response that we're getting out of the power delivery. Now, in motorway driving, this is really a revelation for the compact Mercedes-Benz, because when you liken A-Class, CLA, etc., while they are great daily cars, when it comes to long distance cruising, particularly at high speeds, they can be quite noisy. They can be a little bit crashy on their suspension. This CLA 250 Plus is nothing like that. Look how quiet it is in here. And this is one of the benefits of that aerodynamic element that they've engineered into the design. Obviously, the whole EV side helps in terms of quietness as well. But then it's also this suspension, which is, again, surprisingly quite good for a steel-sprung system. And when you're on a motorway, honestly, it just feels like you're driving something that's well up there with like an E-Class level luxury car, which for an entry-level Mercedes-Benz that you can get in the UK, say at 45k, this is quite an incredible experience on a motorway. And that's something that is a rarity when it comes to the compact class, because they tend not to have the more advanced adaptive suspensions that bigger cars do. And here we've got really great roads all over Denmark, and I've not had that much of the type of horrible road that we would find in the UK. So it's hard for me to judge. What little I've seen, it's handled it really well, and it's a really smooth car in all regards. I've not been kind of jarred at any point. But then really, to judge that, I'd want to drive this in the UK. So we're going to hang fire on any suspension conclusion for now. Now, when it comes to a luxury car, I'm a great fan of driving assistance, and the great thing in the CLA is it can go up to level 2. Here, we've got Drive Pilot on, and it's going to steer itself, as we have the steering assist on there as well. And to me, I really value that when it comes to a luxury car and long distance driving. I love the HUD as well. That's nice and large again, and very clear for the compact class. So guys, I've stopped in a little car park here. I just want to show you how smart these new MB cars are. So you can see I'm currently in drive and I'm facing forward with my camera. If I go into reverse, check that view out. There's a bunch of parking spaces behind me. It's highlighted where the CLA could fit in. So for example, if I tap that one, so I want to go into that one, it'll move to there. If I want to go into that one, it'll move to there. Then I press park now. Wow, there we go. Now the car will expertly park itself into that space. And yes, we've seen cars doing parking themselves in the past, but with that type of UI and then the ease of use here and being able to easily let you choose the space, that's pretty fantastic. The other super impressive thing about the reversing camera is how you get a view of what's underneath the car as well now. I'm guessing they've taken that off the off-roading system that they brought into the GLC, and then it's continued on all their off-road cars. But that is pretty cool to be able to see what's underneath your car as well. One thing that has bothered me while driving around and living with this car a little bit though, is that I can't see all of the main screen here. A bit of it gets hidden behind this part of our steering wheel spoke, kind of in classic 911 fashion, where you kind of have to move your head to see what's behind there. It's strange, because you're such a big screen here, yet a bit of it gets blocked out. It's a little bit odd in terms of ergonomics, not something that I would normally liken to Mercedes. They have upped the level of the CLA, there's no doubt about that, so you're getting some decent bang for buck, even though the price is that much higher. But let's talk about the price. Considering that you're getting class above technology in terms of your motor, your battery, definitely even higher than class above range, almost unmatchable range really in the space, and one of the most clever systems, and indeed the most clever Mercedes that you can get at the moment, And all of that for a starting price of £45,000. That to me is not bad at all. It's actually a viable EV to consider in this day and age where we're so worried about it losing tons and tons of money. How much money really do the compact class cars lose? That much less initial outlay means that much less that we have to worry about losing later on. Yes, it's still not perfect. Yes, I'm really interested about the mild hybrid. But this is one of the few EVs out there thus that I would say is a viable purchase for you and I to consider, based on price, based on the bang for buck you're getting, based on the real world usable range. It's just a lot you're getting for an entry level car. It just really makes a lot more sense. And how many of us have said that we need good compact cars as EVs? EVs work better as either compact cars or super luxury cars. Well, the CLA really comes and proves that to me. But to me, based purely on the range you're getting out of this, and thus the technology, the performance, the price, and if you can stomach the looks, then it's probably the best EV that we've tested recently, I think. This car, I think it does everything that a compact luxury Mercedes Benz needs to do as well. It's super comfortable, it's quiet, it's got enough power, it's got a bit of excitement thanks to the sound modes as well. And then it's got mega range, which is, I think, what we all want from a compact class Mercedes Benz EV. Am I saying it's better than the combustion hybrid version of this car? No, because I haven't driven that yet and I have high hopes for it. I no doubt we'll get a chance to drive that soon. But as for the CLA EV, this is actually an EV that I could viably say to you it's worth serious consideration. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this first drive of the CLA 250 Plus. If you have, please do like and subscribe to RBR, and I'll see you guys next time.